Lady Gaga in early talks to play Harley Quinn in Joker 2, and it's a musical, folks.
Okay.
Before you say no to this concept,
That's what I was gonna say.
I want to pitch this idea. Okay. Before we even read into it. So, first of all, if you've never seen Lady Gaga in American Horror Story, go watch that.
Yep.
Which one was it?
I don't remember. She played the Countess, I believe is the name of the character. I believe it was somebody in the check in the chat. Somebody would be able to.
Asylum or Coven?
It was not. It might have been Asylum. But, okay, so she can do this. She can act. And if they make it a musical,
Born, yeah.
Yes, and Todd Phillips was actually a producer on A Star Is Born, which is where that relationship stems from. But it would be very interesting if what we get is all the musical scenes to me is like, say she's his therapist, and they won't name her Harley Quinn. They'll likely go with the actual name of Harleen Quinzel, which is like her full real name. And then every scene where they perform music together is ultra violent with them harming people.
Right.
It would offset the people that are going to be weirded out by the concept of just turning such a serious character into something like a musical. But if all the musical numbers are accompanied by like hyper violence from the Joker, who is now officially entered into the farthest realms of his psychosis, with her either egging him on or him, because I have a harder time buying that he eggs her on into psychosis like in the canon, and more that maybe they make her into the one who actually makes it worse for him.
You really hit a weak spot for me because I was very against this for reasons I will still discuss. But one of my favorite, very niche tools that is used in a movie is violence to inappropriate songs.
Like,
well, do you remember Dirty Work, the Norm Macdonald
Yep,
movie?
Yep, absolutely.
When there's about to be a bar fight,
Yep.
and Chris Farley goes to the jukebox and he's like, Rolling Stone, Street Fighter, G7. And they were like, you press G8. And you just hear, do you like pina coladas? And then bam, chair shot. And there's a whole fight to that. It's great.
Yeah.
So the idea of legit graphic violence to musical theater, I'm down for that.
I was thinking "Crazy on You" by Heart.
So good.
So there's a bunch of songs that they could do that I think would work perfectly for
Are
this.
you proposing that it's all in his imagination as his girlfriend in the first Joker movie was?
Or shit? Yeah, no.
That's interesting.
Like this new relationship would be a real one that mirrors the relationship between Harley Quinn and the Joker.
Perhaps the idea would be that they have regular therapy sessions, but his delusion makes him believe that they are
they're
duo
like
of
partners
people.
in crime in his mind.
But it's not actually that. Then she would have to be able to play both the straight-laced therapist as well as the violent psychopathic girlfriend, which I think she can do.
Now, I have a question, and maybe this is just because I'm all wrapped up in Timcast fever because I've been hanging out here for a couple of days, but could this possibly, and if it is, this is what makes me against it, besides my absolute love for original Harley Quinn, could this be because liberals hated the first Joker? They said it was problematic. They said it was glorifying this, whatever.
They more hated the idea of it before it even came out.
For sure, 100%. But actually, now that I remember, Todd Phillips, I believe, spoke out against cancel culture because when I first saw this article, my thing was, I'm like, oh no, you're not doing this to appeal to the woke people who were mad at the first Joker by making it's a fun musical where Lady Gaga's like, sorry, the first one was problematic. Like, that's what would...
Well, the name of the running title for it is Folie à Deux, which I believe actually does translate to a shared delusion between two people.
I mean, a dark musical I could be totally down for.
That's what I'm saying. And then,
I don't know. I hate musicals so much.
We rag on them all the time.
I'm not sure I could make it through that.
I thought you were watching Hamilton downstairs before. Is that
Hamilton?
not? Yeah, is that not your vibe?
I wasn't watching Hamilton.
I'm kidding. You do not take me as someone who would be watching
never.
musical theater downstairs.
Well, honestly,
I stand by Hamilton.
it would take something really, really good for me to overlook that. But maybe you're onto something, Brett.
they have to find a way to drag it back into the serious. And to be honest, with as many iterations, one of the comments that I read was with as many iterations as they've done of the Joker now, they're surprised that weirdo Hollywood people haven't already turned it into a musical before this. So if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do something very interesting to actually keep people involved.
Yeah, some people didn't like in the first place that they went off script from the comics and just adapted it into this story about a normal
Yeah.
man.
Did you guys like the Buffy musical?
I never saw the.
Never
I
Buffy
never
saw
saw
that.
it. Everyone said they like loved it, and it was so good. And I don't remember if it actually was or if it's one of those things you go back and watch and kind of cringe.
Probably would go back and cringe.
When was
but
this
I
made?
assume.
It would have been a while ago.
Buffy, I'm old.
The Buffy is you were but a twinkle in your parents' eye
Yeah.
when Buffy was popular.
And I was 46 already.
Yeah. So it says making
so
Joker
tired.
2 a musical is a bold stroke from Phillips, who struck it gold at the box office with $1 billion worldwide gross. Remember, that is without a Chinese release from the theaters, which is still fascinating to me, given the fact that I don't really remember if somebody could correct me as to what it was that China didn't like about it, other than just the fact that it was like, was there like something to do with, was there gay romance in that movie that I'm not remembering? That's usually why China and overseas tend to cut these things.
I love that. That's the only question they ask. It just
they're
it's
like,
given to the president of China. Is
It's
it gay?
that, or if you feature the Epoch Times in
Yes.
one of the shots.
I did shows in China and like Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Beijing years ago. And you go to Tiananmen Square and it's just nothing. There were no signs. There's no anything. They're like, eh. But even weirder than that, when I was going to look up directions, when you Google it, when you were in China with a like Chinese IP, it literally doesn't mention the conflict. It's just like a square that is located in China that is a place.
Very interesting.
It's so wild. Yeah, I've never actually been in a place where I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like.
It would be like going overseas to like where was the atom, or not the atom, like to Hiroshima,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, nothing happened here.
Yeah. This is a field. All right.
Like that doesn't actually make much sense.
Yeah, it was very weird.
So it's I do take issue with the fact that it says here that they framed his number one villain as a loner anti-hero. I don't really feel that he was portrayed as an anti-hero in this movie. I guess like the public could have seen him that way, but
think he was
I don't.
framed that
I didn't
way.
feel like the movie wanted you to see him that way. I felt like being a character study, the idea was more to show what society does to a person. I don't think that they tried to frame his actions as heroic.
I think that's what the left tried to kind of say
Yeah.
it was, where it's like it's glorifying him. I'm like, I don't think it is, guys.
There was a really good meme that I saw today. It says like 1988, they create the Joker by dropping him into a vat of acid. 2019, they just drop him into society, and that just creates the Joker, and that's how you make the Joker now. It's
So
just
Society
true.
is our vat of
Yeah.
acid.
Well, he is glorified in it. It's just you're seeing him glorified through his own
Lens.
eyes.
yeah.
Yep.
But people don't understand storytelling.
This is also a
anymore,
great
so-
example. When you read how much money it made, it's, I believe still probably only hanging out with like progressive folk around then. And all I saw were tweets about it being problematic, about why we don't like it, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly you just snap into the real world and it's like, oh, it did great. And everyone loved it. And he's
Yes.
doing a sequel.
A
And everyone's
normal
excited.
movie.
In the
Yeah.
in the media wanted something bad to happen so badly.
Oh,
Like,
they were almost like rooting
they
for
were
a shooting to
salivating.
happen. It was weird.
They were salivating. There was movie theaters where you had to have like where they had cops, armed cops at the gates.
Yeah, I forgot about that, dude.
And then they were really bummed out when nothing happened.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that there would be a funny way they could do casting if they weren't to do Lady Gaga. I don't know if either of you saw Death on the Nile. Did you?
I
No.
didn't.
You did? Okay. So there's an actress in there named Emma Mackey.
Okay.
Who plays a crazy woman who looks just like Margot Robbie. And it would be really funny to cast somebody who looks just like Margot Robbie but isn't Margot Robbie to
Yeah.
play crazy Harley Quinn
Oh,
in a non.
So that's my follow-up question. What happened to her?
It wouldn't fit in the timeline because one is considered DC Extended Universe, which is a different. This is not connected to that timeline.
So she's still going to be Harley in like Suicide Squad and everything like that?
I think that just
I think they've kind of done away with
They-
that now that Birds of Prey
Failed.
failed.
it did fail, didn't it?
But no,
Yeah.
and Suicide Squad 2 bombed, which broke my heart
She's
because it was
moving on
actually
to
really, really
greater
good.
It was good.
pastures.
Well, I think she's still signed on to like she could still do like
She
one
could,
more.
yeah.
But I don't think that they.
I don't think that would be a good decision.
her money. Or also, she's worth so like she's going to cost more and more and more and
Right.
more because she's such a high status actress that you get discount Margot Robbie and Emma
paired her
Mackey.
with- They paired her with a different iteration of the Joker.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense to have Jared Leto not be there.
Yeah.
Though they could do the three Jokers storyline in this, which is a comic from Jeff Johns that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's multiple versions of the Joker and only one is the real Joker. But I don't think that's what they're going for here.
No.
But as a musical, I think that there is a lot that could be done here. You just have to make it really violent.
You have to make it dark,
almost
yeah.
get Tarantino to just do all the music scenes.
Yes.
It would be glorious.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Inglorious.
So don't. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, Inglorious Jokers. That's what they can call it.
There you go. We nailed it. You guys can't take that. It's ours.
Don't discount this idea out of pocket just because it sounds ridiculous. Another one of the comparisons is that if the first movie was supposed to be like Taxi Driver, that this would be like New York, New York, which is also a Scorsese movie, which was a musical with Robert De Niro. So it's possible. Also, they could bring Robert De Niro back as like a figment of his imagination.
Oh my God.
Who goes around and narrates his life for him.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff they could do.
Can
there.
I also, before we click out of this article, this is off topic and not having to do with the Joker, but it's on Most Popular for Variety, and I just very quickly want to say a headline is James Corden.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
let's do it. James Corden heading back to UK after Late Show concludes in 2023, and I've never been more proud to be an American.
Oh God.
I'm not for renditions
Go
except for
back.
James Corden. I'm like, we send a hole in Syria,
Send
the
him
UK.
back.
Yeah, send him back, send him back, send him back.
See, I'm like that with most late night show hosts. Like every time Jimmy
But
Fallon,
he's especially annoying.
Let's stop traffic in LA to do a song. If I were in the car,
was he promoting Cats?
I think so. Oh, I think so.
Like that's even worse.
I would have run over everybody.
anytime Jimmy Kimmel cries, I get tears of joy.
Yep.
I have a sympathetic reaction where whatever's making him cry is making me
He
extremely
cries
happy.
so often. He's like the Jordan Peterson of late night.
Or, no, that would make him the Kevin.
Sorry, that was a lot.
It's not obvious. It would make him the Kevin Smith of late night because Kevin Smith watches a trailer for anything and just starts bawling his eyes out.
Did you see the trailer for what is it, Marcel the Shell?
No.
I cried. There's a 2-minute brand new trailer that they played for Everything, whatever that movie was. That was
Everything
great.
Everywhere All at
Yeah,
Once.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And the trailer, it's Marcel the Shell, and it's a little shell, and he's trying to find she's a little shell family, and that's all I will say. I choked up.
I don't cry that often during shows. I still contend that a lot of the excitement around somebody was there was tweets about I can't believe they're finally making a Blue Beetle movie. I'm like, yes you can. No, you're
My
lying.
excitement is beyond rational thought.
I'm like, no.
I'm just a sucker for cliches. You put swelling music and a cliche,
Yes.
and someone's
Brett, did you
dog
cry
comes.
at Top Gun Maverick?
I mean,
Oh, I did.
almost.
Yeah.
You almost
pretty-
cried.
pretty-
I almost cried.
Yeah,
I
and
like-
we all know the
And I didn't
scene.
even like it that
we
much.
all know the line that was said, and I totally choked
It's a
up.
beautiful It's a beautiful movie.
It's beautiful.
But that's rare. I'm one of those people where if like you said, swelling music. We've been watching Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
We've been watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, and one of my biggest problems is they're completely failing at the score. There's these scenes that should have Kenobi with really heroic music
Yep.
on, and it's just bland.
Yeah,
music.
you can't do that. I know people had problems with Lost, but one of the things I loved so much about Lost is they nailed that.
Yes.
I remember there was the second to last episode of the first season where Sawyer and Jin, they were going off to try to find help, and they built a raft, and enemies became friends, and they're literally sailing out, and the dog goes after them because the dog wants to come, and they're like, come back, and the orchestra music hits, and I am just sobbing. Here's what you got to do. For any guy listening who wants to cry more to movies, do what I do. Do MMA. I've done the most manly thing possible so I can be a complete woman in every other facet of my life. I can sob uncontrollably and then go and just choke people and punch them in the face, and I'm like, I'm fine. I'm a dude.
I wonder if Lost was the last time Damon Lindelof did anything good. Abrams usually is pretty good about picking his composers.
I remember
Did you not
the
like
finale.
Leftovers?
The finale of Lost was so emotional to me. The music
of
was
Lost
perfect
was. The music is
in the last
perfect.
episode
Yep.
of Lost.
Who was the composer? Does anybody in the chat know who the composer was? I'm looking it up on IMDb.
Because actually, the music in Leftovers, also Lindelof, was great as well. It was very different, but it was great.
Lindelof is also one of those people. Thank you.
Yay.
Lindelof is one of those people that just, people. He got a bad rap now, and a lot. Him, Lindelof, and then who's the dude who did?
When did he get a bad rap? God, I've missed
who
so
did
much.
who did the Watchmen TV show?
Lindelof.
Was it Lindelof? Okay.
Because people love that, I thought.
I was not personally a fan, but I'm also like, and I should have been the target audience for that because I'm not one of those people that evangelized the Watchmen movie, whereas
Right.
a lot of people love that movie, and I'm like,
Really?
it was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was not anything completely special to me. Somebody would have to find whoever did the score. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like I think back, if we're looking for more recent and even like less intense examples of movies, would be when Chris Evans as Captain America prevents the helicopter from leaving in
100%.
Captain America Civil War.
Yep.
And the music swells literally as he grabs it. And he's
I'm getting chills.
he'd been working out for like 6
Yeah.
months for that shot.
Yep.
And so there's like his arms could be super pumped up.
Yep.
And like that's a perfect example of when they can manipulate you with music.
Every
It's a
time they
beautiful
go
thing.
Avengers Assemble, every time like, oh, here comes the backup, and the music comes, and it's like, it's Wakanda, or like whoever's coming, like, oh, it's incredible.
It's designed to elicit a strong emotional response. from you.
Manipulate me, Hollywood. Manipulate me to my core.
One thing that I will give Top Gun Maverick credit for, even though it is a little bit off topic, is that they held to their guns and they didn't use Danger Zone more than once.
Yeah.
If you watch the original Top Gun, that song's in there 3 times.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's the most excessive 1980s thing ever.
That's so funny.
Like it's like in the beginning.
So funny.
And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then there's just a random thing of him like on his motorcycle later. I'm like, it doesn't really fit here, but
Oh, they're like
fun.
started from the top. It's like
Yeah.
the John Mulaney Salt and Pepper Diner story. Yeah, that's wild. Well, so I went into Top Gun. I didn't see the first one.
That's even more impressive that it was that
And I
emotional for you.
loved it. I got the gist of it, but I just watched the preview and I was like, man, I bet I can get it. I'm also like post breakup, so I'm just being crazy where I'm like, I'm going to go to a movie by myself to prove I'm independent. Like I'm just a mess right now. And so, yeah, I just had a feeling and I kind of got the gist of it. But when I saw the reviews, I was like, I bet this narrative, it is just going to be such a well-constructed, this is exactly what you want in a movie type movie,
Yeah.
that I'm like, I bet I can get everything from it. And sure enough, I did. Like the piano scene where like he puts it together, that's all you need right there.
What was interesting is like I had seen the movie a bunch of times, and I was trying to think when we were there, like who the hell is Penny? I couldn't think of who the hell Penny. I was like, and then I remember that she was the admiral's daughter that was mentioned at the very beginning of
Yep.
the first Top Gun, and that didn't register with me. But it's still,
But it was still a perfect love story
Yes.
in that, yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. It's
Didn't
like tell the
matter
movie
ultimately.
like it can be seen by someone who doesn't know the first one. Because even good 80s movies that I really do enjoy, I do have trouble going back and watching. Like I was just flying to Hawaii and I was like, oh, Beverly Hills Cop, which is a good movie.
Yes.
But I just turned it on, and right away in the action scene, you just hear like wah, like sexy saxophone 80s stuff, and I'm like,
It was the 80s.
I can't do it. So I was like, if I felt like if I watched Top Gun in all of its cheesy glory, I actually wouldn't have been as excited to see the new one. So I just went in blind and loved it.
I just like, to me, it's just like like in the original Top Gun, it's like it's the Cold War, it's Russia,
Yeah.
it's like nothing's changed because Hollywood is now afraid to make anyone the bad guy but Russia.
Yeah.
So in Top Gun 2, they just made generic villain number 1 who looks like Cobra Commander.
Yeah, it's like we're at war with this mountain.
They're like, whereas like it's the enemy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like they need more information than that.
Just
Nope.
give him a wave. Yeah.
Super chats. There were super chats.
Waffle Sensei said the story of the Joker is that when society drives you to the brink, you should K-word your bullies, and that it's a good thing. China can't let that get into their citizens' minds. That movie was dumb.
He's right that was what that China was like. That was plus that was like right when Taiwan or like when everyone, all the stuff with was it Taiwan that was rising up at that time? The protests in
I mean, that conflict is ongoing, but
or I'm sorry, Hong Kong.
Yeah,
There's
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong
Yeah.
protests
Yes,
were
yes,
going.
yes, yes.
Hong Kong
The one that
protests
was
were going
relevant
on
at
that
the
time.
time.
The one and only time I've ever made like any type of like I got crap for it. I made a shirt that said "Freedom for Hong Kong," and somebody's like, "Ugh." It's like, remember me who hates activism.
the first time
you learned your lesson.
I was like, this is why I hate acting.
This is why I'm apathetic and nihilistic.
Even if I believe it, I still regretted doing it.
That's the move. I mean, you're not wrong. Also, the first half of that super chat before they mentioned China, I was like, whoa, this person is plotting revenge. And then when he brought up China, I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
He's like, your enemies must be taken care of. I was like, where is this going? I hope he likes me.
I wouldn't have read that otherwise. Clint Torres said, send him back, base. John Lee said, I could be wrong, but I thought Harley was the only one dropped into acid. Did the Joker fall into acid too?
In the 88 movie, right?
Yeah, in the first movie, I thought so.
In the first movie, yeah.
In the old person one.
In the Suicide Squad movie, it was just
he pushed
Harley in because that's love, man. You know, that's love.
Clint Torres said, sorry I've been away, people. My stupid job takes up an unholy amount of time, but I need to make it rain. It's a vicious cycle. Thank you, Clint Torres. We really appreciate
Mary
it.
especially
hang in there, buddy.
The term unholy, right? Is that a problem?
An unholy amount of his time.
Yes.
Hobbit said, music is incredibly vital to hit my emotions. The end of the Fellowship of the Ring chokes me up 20 years later.
Yes.
Other than that, I'm affected most by epic moments of sacrifice and hope and despair.
Yes.
One of an interesting example in television that people might not. There's a composer named Blake Neely who did all of the Arrowverse shows, which are objectively awful shows that have fantastic musical scores when the heroes do heroic stuff.
That's what you need.
Because he also, I mean, he did a bunch of other stuff too. He did a show called Blind Spot, which has he has this.
I watched that. The girl, wait, is that the FBI one?
Yeah, with Jamie Alexander.
She saved my life in LA.
Jamie Alexander?
Yeah, I knocked myself out. And I was walking, like, bleeding, like, covered in blood, and she pulled up.
No way.
And she stopped, and she was like, do you need help?
That's amazing.
And she took me, we went to a vet. We went to a vet in LA just to, like, just see if I needed stitches or like patched up, and I was super woozy. And I just remember like walking into the vet. I was like, I like you on Blind Spot. Hey, doggies. And like I was sitting down. I was like, do you have crackers? Like as I was just, God, I haven't thought about this. It just came back to me like a flashback. And they just like compressed my head and stuff like that. And we actually had a mutual friend, so I got to like send her a thank you letter.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
she's a Marvel actress. She played Lady Sif in the Thor movies.
Right. She rules.
But she's great. And that show it's one of the few times I've downloaded like a random television score, because they score the whole show, right?
Yeah.
So characters have their own beats. And there's a character in like season 2 and 3 named Roman who plays her brother, who has this incredible score. He's not even a good guy, he's a bad guy, but it would be a fantastic good guy score.
And that show also had really good, if there's good action choreography, I will sit through a bad generic show to get to the one fight scene with the dope music.
It's also really funny because that's one of those shows where like nobody could actually be in the FBI if it was like that, because it's anxiety inducing conflict. Like they're always in a gunfight.
Yep.
I'm like, no. I was like, you don't actually get into a gunfight every day in the FBI.
My PTSD is fighting with my other PTSD, and it just gets me to go forward.
That has one of my favorite actresses, Ashley Johnson. She's one of the people from the show Critical Role on the D&D show.
Yes.
Critical Role, and she plays the tech person on that show.
Okay.
She's great.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I have a couple guilty pleasure action shows. Now they're all on HBO Max, but that show Banshee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again,
Anthony Starr.
Yeah.
He's in The Boys.
Who's very similar. It kind of
to Sullivan Stapleton. I thought they were the same person.
100%, bro. Yes. I did too. And then there's another one that, Warrior's actually good.
Yep.
Which same dude who made Banshee. Banshee, if you guys haven't watched it, semi-problematic, and it's just sex and violence. It is. Anytime I want to just rebuild my manhood, I watch Banshee like all the way through again. And then there's another one with the actual guy from Blind Spot, and it was like a Navy SEAL one or something.
And he was like, is that the one where he had there was like really heavy nudity in like?
Yes, it was like MI5 and the CIA or something like that were teaming up.
It wasn't an American show though. It was like an Australian show.
No, but it was also on HBO Max or Cinemax.
Bosch is a good show to watch if you have. It's a slow burn, but it's
I heard it's a slow burn,
similar to that, but that's based on books in novelizations, which is a little bit more story driven, like The Wire was.
Yeah.
or if you go back and you watch The Shield is the other one. I've been telling people to go back and watch.
You go back and it's still good.
It's so
I love that you guys are just like completely broing out.
Yeah.
Right now.
we're
like I just knew this
topic.
would happen.
Yes.
I had to start pulling the string.
You lit up because the reason she asked me to do the show was because I started going on, I assume the exact same rant you went on after watching Top Gun, and she was like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Come on the podcast."
See, if I could have my ideal podcast, it would be just doing stuff like this where you wouldn't actually be able to give it a name because you'll go off into like 90 different directions and you wouldn't be able to have a target audience because you go to like, we just mentioned like 12 shows from like 2 decades.
Can we, like, when I start doing more here, can we just like make new things? Can we do something where we just watch like 90s action movies and just like mystery science theater?
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Things have been talked about.
Okay. Yes. All right.
There was another super chat in there.
Soci Hobbit says the Arrowverse music is amazing. I stopped watching the shows years ago
because
of how bad they were, but I still have some of the tracks on my phone.
Yeah, every time Oliver Queen gets to enter a room and look cool, the music is freaking awesome. So, all right,
we have a couple more.
I also assume that money shot.
Yes,
was for us doing the Mystery Science Theater.
Yes,
like best of the best and only the strong.
Clint Torres said, I show up here for the sex, violence, and illicit drug use. Still waiting.
We'll have to get like a warning like a parental advisory sticker.
Because I'm gonna be honest, now that I'm hanging out and moving here, that will happen a lot.
Curtis Terry said, Mary, what about Rocky Horror Picture Show or Phantom of the Opera? I've been meaning to watch Phantom for a while. I don't know about Rocky Horror Picture Show though.
But Mary, I think you're kind of like me because you seem like a very like logic-based person. So I'm a sap. I cry to music. I like cheesy things. Blah blah blah. I convinced myself that I was like, I've got to like musicals. It's all the stuff. And I went to see the new West Side Story, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I think that musicals avoid emotion because every time that you're watching a dialogue, it gets interrupted by the sequence.
The idea of me and you about to fight and then I start snapping while I'm really afraid you're gonna stab me, it's just it kills it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if like they do it as a thing in Joker, since we can pull this around to wrap this up.
Well, that's how that works.
Is that like it's like he's like singing while he's like stabbing someone?
That's how you make it work.
Like, you could make that work if it's done very, very well.
Is that like a dark comedy angle for it?
I thought my life was a tragedy, but it's actually a comedy. There you go.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
I get it.
All right, and then Curtis Terry also said that he was just referring to musicals. I've never been a big musical fan. I know that La La Land was very popular, and that's why they.
I watched that one.
I like
the ending. Just really
the ending bummed me out. Agreed. Hard agreed.
I think the big problem though is that La La Land was an original, and a lot of the other ones that are failing are not originals. They're remaking
I appreciate
stuff.
anything being original anymore.
Oh. Again, speaking of West Side Story, the reason I wanted to see it is because of the lead, Baby Driver.
Yeah,
that's an example of
Ansel Elgort.
Yes, it's not Baby
Thank
Driver,
you.
not a musical, but the score was like that opening scene in Baby Driver, completely to the John Spencer Explosion song,
which is now
it was choreographed like a musical, but it's not a musical.
Which is now problematic because Kevin Spacey is a creep, and you can't.
I guess I can't like that movie anymore. Sorry, guys. Forget I said that. Bleep out Baby Driver.
You're not allowed to like Seven or anything anymore. Because Kevin Spacey's a creep. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.